In 1988, scientists discovered that endothelial cells manufactured the gas nitric oxide.
Well, what does nitric oxide do? Nitric oxide keeps our blood flowing smoothly without being sticky.
It also helps to dilate constricted blood vessels during physical activity and inhibits the formation of plaque.
And most importantly, nitric oxide is a powerful force for eliminating the inflammation that seems to go with this plaque.
However, scientific tests have demonstrated that when we start eating the typical Western diet, our endothelial cells are damaged.
When you're getting to be in your 40s and 50s and 60s and you've been slaughtering your endothelial cells, you don't have those 6 or 8 tennis courts. You may be down to 1.5 or 2, and they can't protect you.
Yet according to Dr. Esselstyn, when we begin eating a whole foods plant-based diet, the damage to our endothelial cells not only stops, it starts to reverse. About 5 years into his study, Esselstyn made a small but significant change in his patient's menu. It started in 1990 when he read the glowing review of Dr. Campbell's China study in the New York Times.
Dr. Esselstyn saw that and invited me to come to a conference he was organizing in Arizona.
These two revolutionaries, who up until then had been on similar but separate paths, finally met face to face.
On the one hand, I'm coming from the scientific route, getting some ideas. He's coming from the clinical route and doing some dramatic research. Here's the science, here's the clinical evidence. Put the two together is amazing.
When he learned of Campbell's research, Esselstyn removed dairy products from his patient's diet.
The results of his ongoing study continued to be impressive, and in 1995 he published a paper detailing them in a noted scientific journal. Yet one of Esselstyn's most remarkable success stories involved a colleague of his at the Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Joseph Crow.
Actually, I was active, healthy, very busy, mid-40s, absolutely no risk factors at all for any heart problem.
But Dr. Crow, even with what was considered to be a healthy cholesterol level, was actually ravaged by heart disease.
This angiogram, taken after his first nearly fatal heart attack in 1996, shows how badly damaged one of his coronary arteries was. This angiogram was done after less than 3 years of entirely dietary treatment. Dr. Crow is fortunate. In 25% of cases, sudden death is the first and only sign of coronary artery disease.
Of Dr. Esselstyn's original 18 patients, all survived the initial 12 years of the study. Today, 14 patients are still alive, over 2 decades after the study began.
The thing about Essie, although he's always very pleasant, when you said, I'm going to be on this program and I'm going to stay with this diet, you stayed with the diet or there was the door. You had no choice. I mean, his smiles are wonderful, but he is very stern, you know. That's why I'm still living. But, you know, he's just a wonderful man.
And I look at the pictures, some of my pictures years ago, 20 years ago, actually looks older than today. The only thing is I lost more hair, you know.
Anthony and the other male patients also noted another change.
When you're young, when you're a teenager, you see a female and so on, you get kind of excited. And the first reaction physically, you know, it gets attention, you know. Raise the flag, I call it. This happened to us. All the other Dr. Esselstyn's, I call them all the guinea pigs. The flag still rises.
Talking to your doctor about ED may be the last thing you want to do, but it's definitely a conversation worth having.
I'm a practicing urologist and have been so for the last 25 years. And erectile dysfunction is actually the first clinical indicator of generalized cardiovascular disease. It's the canary in the coal mine. It's the thing that lets you know that you have some significant endothelial and vascular disease much earlier than will a heart attack or something like that. We have to stop thinking of the body like it's compartmentalized. It really isn't. The blood goes everywhere in the body. And so if you have vascular disease anywhere, you have it everywhere.
Despite the apparent success of the dietary approach, some critics say eating this way is extreme.
Now, with the Western diet, this guarantees there are going to be, what, 500,000 people in this country this year who will have to have the front half of their body divided, their heart exposed, then veins will be taken from their leg and sewed on their heart. Some people would call that extreme.
Dr. Esselstyn has now successfully treated over 250 patients with heart disease, using almost exclusively a whole foods, plant-based diet.
Heart disease, as far as I'm concerned, is an absolutely toothless paper tiger that need never ever exist. And if it does exist, it need never ever progress.
Las Vegas, Nevada. At the Extreme Couture Gym, we found an extraordinary plant-based athlete, Ultimate Fighter champion Mac Danzig. In the mixed martial arts world, strength, toughness, and endurance are of paramount importance, and Mac has them all.
I had cut dairy out of my diet when I was about 18 years old because I had a ear, nose, and throat allergy to dairy, and I was getting a lot of ear infections and things like that. So when I cut that out, really the only thing that was separating me from having a vegan diet was chicken and fish. So I was just eating that for years, and I was eating it because I thought that I needed to, because everyone tells you, if you're an athlete, you need, at least chicken and fish in your diet for protein. Something that's just one of the myths that's been perpetuated for a while. All it took was me cutting the chicken and fish out, and I did it cold turkey. I think a lot of people, stereotypically speaking, think someone that's a vegan is like some skinny hippie type of person. And I'm not necessarily trying to break the stereotype. I tried the diet for my own personal reasons, and it worked for me. I feel like I have more energy now that I don't eat the meat products, and I also feel like I recover better in between my workouts. I'm not trying to be part of some exclusive club or anything like that. I'm just doing my thing, and don't plan on eating meat or dairy or anything like that for the rest of my life.
This guide is called the Type A Planning Guide. Now, it includes foods that are found in the basic 4 food groups, because we are concerned about the total daily needs, and this is a part of it.
We must serve 1/2 pint of fresh fluid milk to provide calcium, riboflavin, and the other nutrients that are needed for our children.
For decades, the dairy industry and U.S. government have been saying that milk is good for our bones. While all whole foods contain calcium, an essential nutrient for bone health, it is argued that we need the higher amounts found in dairy. Children and aging women in particular have been singled out to drink more and more and more milk.
What do you think the most important nutrient we get from dairy products is, like milk?
Calcium. Calcium.
Calcium?
Calcium. 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 Or calcium.
Calcium.
The science in terms of dairy's role in healthy bones is pretty strong. And in fact, the National Osteoporosis Foundation, of course, utilizes that science in their recommendations.
Osteoporosis is a degenerative bone disease, which has been widely linked to a lack of calcium. If this is true, nations with a high intake of dairy products, which are a major source of calcium in a westernized diet, should have low levels of osteoporosis. But according to a study done by a distinguished Harvard researcher, Nations with high levels of calcium intake tend to have high levels of hip fractures, which is a key indicator for osteoporosis.
And so, in fact, the higher the dairy consumption, the higher the rate of osteoporosis. Exactly the opposite of what the dairy industry has been telling us for so long. One of the primary mechanisms for that is that animal protein tends to create an acid-like condition in the body called metabolic acidosis.
To combat this condition, the body draws upon its most readily available acid buffer, namely calcium in our bones. As the calcium is extracted to neutralize the excess acid, our bones are weakened. In defending the health benefits of milk, many national health organizations now recommend that we consume low-fat dairy products.
It can be milk, it can be yogurt, it can be cheese, it can be anything made from milk. But again, the important message, it's a message that comes from the American Dietetic Association, the National Osteoporosis Foundation, cancer, heart. We're all on the same page. It needs to be low fat or fat-free.
So as the fat is taken out, the protein becomes a larger proportion of the total. So they become higher in protein, lower in fat. And when we compare these high protein, low fat milk products, for example, with prostate cancer, the relationship is as strong as it is for cigarette smoking and lung cancer. Most of these animals here are what we call heifers. They're the young females, not yet cows.
So they haven't had their first calf yet.
They haven't had their first calf.
So they have to have their first calf before they can
Once
lactate.
they come into lactation, they almost keep them, these days, they keep them pregnant continuously
Exactly.
for 3 or 4 years.
Why are they eating grass now?
Well, this is the last time in their lifetime they're going to see grass. After that, they're in the barn, they're standing there for the rest of their life. When I was young, we defended our product, promoted our product, because it was nature's most perfect food. And so I believe that. But it took on a slightly different twist as time passed. I mean, it's the most perfect food for cats. And trying to switch the milk of one species to another species doesn't make a lot of sense.
Only 2 months into her treatment, Sandera was experiencing dramatic effects on her type 2 diabetes and hypertension.
Since I've been on a plant-based diet, blood pressure's been wonderful. My blood sugars are in the 80s. It shocks me, 70s. And so I was alarmed when it was 60. I'm like, isn't that bad? It's 60, you know. And I talked to the diabetes educator, which is wonderful. She's like, no, that's a normal blood sugar. Your pancreas is working. It's reversing.
Ironically, Sandera works at an outpatient facility for diabetics. Yet the treatment that was achieving success with her diabetes came from outside the established medical system. The positive results went far beyond Sandera's chronic diseases.
Mentally, not having the sluggishness, the fear of the disease progressing, because I feel I'm in control and I have power of taking it back the right way now. So mentally, I feel great. I'm eating the things I should eat. And the one thing that is true that Ann said to me, you really start tasting the real taste of what you're eating. Because I eat a peach and you think, I was in heaven with my white peaches. I get to eat. And it feels good to be able to eat, bringing the sugar down, you losing the weight, your whole everything changes. You know, I think we're a little dependent on, you know, our doctors and the medications. We should take a little bit more responsibility in checking out for ourselves.
And speaking of doctors and medications, how does Sandera's regular physician feel about her new lifestyle?
When I recently approached her about my blood sugars being so great, my question was, should I not take my medication? And she said, no, you still take your medications. And she said, what is that doctor trying to do? Take you off your medications? And I'm looking like, yeah, I'm hoping that's the goal. So there's still people we have to make believers. Yeah.
Sally and Jim eat their breakfast at about 7 o'clock. It's a good breakfast of good foundation foods. Today they're having milk, cereal, poached eggs, and sliced oranges. They are starting the day right.
The key agency that sets nutritional guidelines for Americans is the United States Department of Agriculture. The USDA helps determine what foods are served to everyone from our soldiers in the field to our kids in their school cafeterias. These guidelines are also taught in our schools, influencing what our children will eat for the rest of their lives. Dr. David Klurfeld is a nutritional scientist and national program leader for human nutrition with the USDA's Agricultural Research Service.
We've made dietary recommendations since the 1890s from USDA, and that was before we knew about vitamins and minerals. Subsequently, we've had different food groups, and we had the basic 4 and 5 and 7 and 12, and it varied as the science changed.
Perhaps the best known of the food groups was the Basic 4, introduced in 1956 in a leaflet called Food for Fitness. The mainstay of nutrition education for over 30 years, the Basic 4 defined what an entire generation of Americans believed was healthy to eat. The 4 food groups was replaced in 1992 by the Food Pyramid, then updated by My Pyramid. These guidelines recommend 3 servings of dairy products per day, and meat is still a primary source of protein. In following My Pyramid, a 15-year-old girl can eat a daily menu consisting of a bowl of Lucky Charms with low-fat milk and a glass of orange juice from concentrate for breakfast, cheese-flavored crackers for a morning snack, a cheeseburger on a whole grain bun with French fries and a Coke for lunch, chocolate pudding and grapes for an afternoon snack, and chicken nuggets with a biscuit and canned green beans for dinner, with low-fat ice cream for dessert.
I see now what's happening with the way that we feed many of our children and our school systems. We shouldn't be surprised that we're seeing childhood obesity at the rates that we're seeing it.
Dr. Neil Barnard is a medical researcher and president of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine.
Well, the problem is when a kid is pulling his tray down the school lunch line, you see federal policies in action. There are burgers topped with cheese, the milk is heavily subsidized, but the vegetables and fruits, a little bit harder to find. And this is because the government contracts are going to particularly the meat producers and other producers as well. It has nothing to do with the health of the children. It has all to do with the financial health of the big agribusiness entities.
What we have with the USDA is it's really a farmers advocacy organization, and okay, let's have one. But that same group cannot advocate for farmers, help subsidize their operations, manage commodity foods, subsidize the price of growing things, and then turn around and say, okay, we're going to tell people what to eat. They're going to tell people what to eat based on their constituents, which are the farmers, not the American public.
In 1998, Barnard's group sued the USDA.
Every 5 years, the government reformulates the dietary guidelines for Americans. That's the blueprint of what Americans are supposed to eat to be healthy. And we looked at the panel that pulled it together, 11 people. 6 of the 11 had financial relationships with the food industry. So we said, hey, wait a minute. There are laws about what they're supposed to do and how transparent they are supposed to be. They violated those. And we brought them to court. And it was a long trial, but we won. But that doesn't change the fact that the policies they came up with continue to favor industry as they always have.
I don't think there really is a problem with industry connections between scientists and the food industry, primarily because if the beef industry has a question about their products, shouldn't they go to the best scientists? And if the best scientists are consulting for the food industry, I still want the best scientists on these committees that make nutritional recommendations. Financial conflict of interest is only one conflict of interest. You know, there are people who've spent their entire careers trying to prove that a vegetarian diet is good for you or that red meat is bad for you. Now, they may not have industry ties, but they too have a conflict of interest.
You know, we do develop biases personally. I had those biases too. But I got to a point in my career that I was getting results that went against what I had thought was true. So I had to self-reflect, criticize my own bias, look at it really carefully, and I changed my views.
Dr. Campbell paid a price for changing his views. He's been marginalized by key administrators of his own university.
This after being a lead scientist and securing millions of dollars in research grants for Cornell's Nutritional Sciences Division. He had a popular nutrition course canceled by the division director, who had long been a major consultant to the dairy industry. Numerous observers feel this was an arbitrary decision that violated the standards of academic freedom. Dr. Campbell has also witnessed serious corporate influence over research that is used to develop the government's nutrition policy. One example he cites centers on the prestigious National Academy of Sciences.
The building behind me here is perhaps the single most important building in the area of science in the country. This is where scientists participate in deliberations about issues of the day and determine how that science can be used to affect policy. In the early days when I was involved, those panels were mostly funded by public money. But on the other hand, in more recent years, I have seen more and more corporate money coming in to support these activities. And more people being allowed on the committees, especially the chairs of the committee. And of course they can pick the kind of people they want to pick in order to get a certain kind of conclusion. It's not the way it should be, and I'm sure that if the public were to know how powerful is this influence, they would be surely upset.
I had been a runner for 14 years, in fact, a marathoner. 47 years old, at the top of my game.
In 1982, Ruth Heydrich's running career came to a sudden stop when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. After a mastectomy, her doctors recommended chemotherapy and radiation to treat the cancer that had by then spread to her lungs and bones. Ruth decided to visit Dr. John McDougall instead.
And I said, Ruth, I've spent my residency collecting information on diet and breast cancer, and it's all in these files right here. Sit in my office and read through it and see what you think.
He said, these are the studies that show what I'm trying to prove is that diet can reverse breast cancer.
And she read it, and she comes out and she says, okay, I've changed my diet. She changed her diet.
So he showed me how to eat, no added oils, lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grains.
Ruth then started training for the Ironman Triathlon in Hawaii, which combines running a marathon with long-distance biking and swimming.
I became obsessed. Kept up the running, of course, never stopped, and then added swimming, biking, and for good measure, lifted weights. And people were saying, you're crazy, you're a cancer patient, you should be resting. Doctors told me this. I felt so good, I felt fit, and I wanted to maintain that level of fitness. And I felt sure that if I had a healthy body and I was putting the right food into it, that I could beat this cancer.
At the Ironman Triathlon, Ruth won a gold medal in her age group.
Stuck with the diet, found out my arthritis disappeared, my constipation disappeared, my dandruff disappeared. No sign of depression, which you might expect with a cancer diagnosis. I felt renewed, invigorated, and out to show that diet is so much more important than anybody ever thought.
Other women get over breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer. There are people who have had metastatic prostate cancer all over their body who have gone through what we call spontaneous remission. In other words, they've been cured. And it's not the end of the world when you get this diagnosis. Some people get over it. Ruth did.
So I'm still racing, still daily training. Now, how many people in their 70s are doing triathlons? Not very many. So that gives hope for all of us as we age, that not only will you stay healthy and beat the degenerative diseases that most people get, but you can start collecting medals.
The food choices we make have profound global effects. It takes over 10 times the amount of energy from fossil fuels to produce a calorie of animal-based food than it does to produce a calorie of plant food. Since the 1970s, 20% of the Amazon's rainforest has been destroyed. That's an area the size of California. 80% of this cleared land is now occupied by livestock. The world's cattle alone eat enough grain to feed 8.7 billion people, nearly 2 billion more than the population on Earth. With almost 1 billion malnourished people across the globe, redirecting even a portion of the grain used to fatten cattle could feed every hungry mouth on the planet. For Gene Bauer, factors like these, combined with a deep respect for animals, helped convince him to adopt a plant-based diet. Mr. Bauer is president and co-founder of Farm Sanctuary near Watkins Glen, New York. It provides a safe haven for animals that have been abandoned or abused.
I grew up eating animals, like most people in our country, but once I started considering my food choices, I recognized that I didn't really want to eat animals. And the more I learned, the more I saw that I was healthier if I didn't eat animals, and that I had a much lighter footprint on our planet. The livestock industry is a greater contributor to global warming than the entire transportation industry, according to the United Nations. So by eating meat, milk, and eggs the way we are, we're harming our own health. We're slaughtering 10 billion innocent animals every year in the U.S., and we're destroying the planet.
Statistics compiled from the United Nations and the World Health Organization demonstrate the profound global effect that diet has on health. These are the estimated amounts of animal foods produced in 9 countries, a figure that's closely related to animal food consumption. These are the numbers of deaths due to heart disease and cancer in the same countries. In the United States, the very same diseases continue to have a grave impact. Even with the billions of dollars spent on cardiac treatment, heart disease is still the #1 cause of death, killing over 600,000 people a year.
And the elephant in the room, when we talk about stents and heart bypass surgery, is the fact that, well, it's no question, in an emergency, these procedures are absolutely life-saving. But when they're done electively, and these procedures do not protect from new heart attacks.
Stents and bypass operations are used mainly to treat large arterial blockages. Yet according to many research studies, only a small percentage of heart attacks are caused by the largest buildups of plaque. The rest are caused by the more numerous, newer blockages that are far more inflamed and much more likely to rupture than the larger, older, more stable plaques.
And so this is why those procedures don't treat the disease. They are treating symptoms.
Dr. Esselstyn has been eating the same foods that he has recommended to his patients for over 25 years. One of his sons, Rip Esselstyn, used a plant-based diet to fuel a successful 10-year career as a professional triathlete. When Rip turned 34, he was ready for a career change and trained to become a firefighter. Rip was assigned to Engine Company No. 2 in Austin, Texas.
We're incredibly competitive here at the fire station, and we love making bets. So we were out on the porch one night, and we kind of made this little bar bet to see who had the lowest cholesterol level. So the next morning, we drove to a lab, got tested, and the results came back, and it led to a discovery that J.R. James Ray, our resident redneck, had a cholesterol of 344. Pretty much means you're knocking at death's door. And so what we did in an act of solidarity is the next day we went about eating a plant-strong diet to basically save his life and save his arteries.
The men agreed to change their firehouse diet. But in Texas, old eating habits die hard.
Meat's almost a sport in Texas. I have several good friends that they're barbecue teams. That's what they do. That's their sport on the weekends.
Texans are serious about
Texas,
the barbecue.
Kansas.
Well, guys associate being manly with eating meat. And if you're a firefighter, it's exponentially so. Last year, for example, there were 133 firefighter fatalities in the United States. 52% were from heart disease. Our #1 killer of in the line of duty deaths for firefighters is heart disease.
After just 3 weeks on his new diet, JR tested his blood cholesterol and it dropped 148 points, a decrease of 43%.
His results inspired the others who also saw their cholesterol drop and their energy levels rise. As firemen, they were not only helping themselves, they were in better shape to assist others.
One of the things about being a firefighter is you don't have any idea what your next call could be. We may have a high-rise alarm where we have to go up 20 flights of stairs with air packs on, with all of our bunker gear on, with a high-rise pack on our backs. Anybody can go down the pole, but not everybody can go up, especially without their legs. And right there you're talking about an additional 75 to 100 pounds that you have to carry up 20 flights of stairs. You have to have an amazing aerobic capacity and strength in order to do that.
Real men eat plants. Real men eat plants.
You know, as firefighters, everybody thinks that we fight fire, and we do. But over 70% of our calls are medical emergencies where we are responding to heart disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, rampant obesity, and so we see up close and personal basically the destruction that's being caused by the standard American diet. To me, the answer is just absolutely so simple it's criminal. And it's just people starting to take responsibility for their health and starting to eat more plant-based foods. It's that simple.
After 13 weeks on a whole foods plant-based diet, it was time to get my results from Dr. Letterman.
When you started, your weight was 231 pounds, right. Now 211 pounds.
Okay, that's
it's a 20-pound drop there.
Wow.
Your blood pressure was 142/82 when you started. It's now 112/70.
Wow,
right.
That's a big drop.
That's
right?
a nice drop. Oh yeah, that's great, and it'll just keep dropping as you continue to do
awesome.
this. Your pulse was resting at 92 when you started. It's now down to 60. Resting.
Okay, cool.
Your total cholesterol, though, went from 241 down to 154.
What?
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. 241 down to 154.
154?
154, yeah. It's really, and your LDL, which is your bad cholesterol, I think this is the most impressive, went from 157 down to 80.
No way!
Yeah, that's amazing, though, to drop almost in half. We did CRP last time, which is sort of the marker of the inflammation in the heart and the blood vessels, and that went from 6.0 down to 2.8.
Without using any medications, I significantly reduced my chances of getting a heart attack and many other diseases.
Tomorrow marks 20 weeks on the program. I've lost 45 pounds. I've reversed the diabetes.
You have to know that everybody is so incredibly proud of what you've done.
I don't have to rely on the medication. I have a lot of energy that I didn't have before. My children love it. They're so proud of me, and they tell me all the time. I had a little saying that I've carried around for maybe the last 2 years, and it's win the war. Do not let one lost battle end the war. If you do break down and give in to temptation, do not quit. Just get right back on track. Not tomorrow, but right now. The diabetes is not coming back. I'm not going to let it come back, nor the weight. The message is you're in control of your life.
Joey Coyne had over 24 health problems, including type 2 diabetes. But after 22 weeks eating plant-based foods, his condition had changed dramatically.
Hey, how you doing?
Back again.
And you're getting healthier. Your weight is down 28 pounds. You feel better than you have. 26 out of 27 complaints are gone completely. Your marker of inflammation in the vessels is down to that of a normal person. Your blood sugars are coming down. They continue to come down even on a daily basis, which are going to get better. Your cholesterol is significantly lower than it was when you first started, before you ever started taking any pills. Your blood pressure is normal now compared to how it was before. While on pills, it was still elevated. And you just said you've never felt like this before. You look at how you look in the pictures. You look healthier. So, like I told you before, I explained how the numbers can affect our judgment of what real health is. And it's not just the numbers; it's overall the entire picture. And your picture looks fantastic.
I was taking 9 pills a day and 2 shots. So I was spending almost $150 to $200 a month on medication, above my insurance. Just think about that. I've been doing it 5 months. I've saved, $800 to $1,000 already because I haven't taken 1 pill, 1 shot, So think about what that saved me, not just me, the insurance company.
The U.S. government will give you figures that 75% of the dollars spent in health care are due to chronic illnesses, and these are due to diet and lifestyle. Let's get rid of the problem, which is the sickness, which is caused by the food.
Now well into their 70s, Doctors Campbell and Esselstyn are both vital and active. They also continue to spread their message.
If you carefully look at our school children, already the arteries to their brain, the carotid artery, is getting some intimal medial thickening.
Dr. Esselstyn lectures about his research all over the United States and abroad. His wife Ann frequently accompanies him to help counsel patients and to demonstrate the preparation of plant-based foods. Dr. Esselstyn is also director of the Cardiovascular Disease Prevention and Reversal Program at the Cleveland Clinic's Wellness Institute. Like Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Campbell continues to lecture throughout America and beyond.
Dr. Campbell, you believe that even if animal-based proteins, meat, dairy, etc., are free from contamination, you don't think people should eat them?
No, I don't. I think the closer we get to a plant-based diet, I should say a whole foods plant-based diet, the healthier we're going to be for all of us.
In China, where Dr. Campbell did his large study a generation ago, the population has experienced dramatic increases in the amount of meat, dairy, and processed foods the average person consumes. At the same time, the rates of degenerative diseases are skyrocketing. Many Chinese now share some of the same beliefs Americans have about nutrition.
吃肉我觉得增加蛋白质啊，对人体其实有很多好处。早晨起来喝一杯牛奶，我认为好像还是比较好。
Dr. Campbell's message is resonating with growing numbers of concerned people around the world.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks to the efforts of both these pioneers and their colleagues, thousands of people are realizing that profound improvements in health and quality of life are within reach.
You have two choices. You can eat yourself into poor health and early death, or you can eat yourself into good health and a long, healthy life. And that road is on a plant-centered dietary pattern.
You know, I know of nothing else in medicine that can come close to what a plant-based diet can do. I can say this with a great deal of confidence, that our national authorities are simply excluding this concept of nutrition from the debate and the discussion in order to protect the status quo. In theory, if everyone were to adopt this, I really believe we could cut healthcare costs by 70 to 80%. That's amazing. And it all comes from understanding nutrition, applying nutrition, and just watching the results.
The greatest gift that you could possibly give to yourself and your family, not only those in your generation, but your children and your grandchildren, if you can make them be aware of the incredible power that resides within each of them to avoid life's most poignantly tragic and painful events. You just don't have to have those kinds of events.
Well, I believe it with all my heart. If anyone listens to this, and they really should look at their refrigerator and look at their diet and give it a try. You'll lose weight and you'll be healthier. Nothing could lose if you just take a few weeks and try. You could see how easy it is.
I'm not going to say it was difficult. Again, I made up my mind. This is what I'm going to do. I never felt like I wasn't getting what I wanted. So I didn't have ice cream. So I didn't have the donuts. So I ate something else.
I can thank them in every way I can think possible, and my doctor, especially Matt, when they just can't understand what it's done to change my life. And it really has, not just mine, my family's, everybody's. It gives me shivers talking about it because it's so serious. It's a life-changing experience.
You can be in control. And I stress this because there's so many things going on in my life that I'm not in control of. And that's my message. You can't control your outcome of your body. Eat to live and don't live to eat.
Really good job.